Hello and welcome back. This is our final one of these today. I can't believe Thursday's almost over. I'm Dave from Candid Wholesale. This is day 3 of 4 of the Portland Supply Trade Show, open on Candid, brought to you by A&O Portland, a division of Prosper Portland and our partners Mercatus PDX and Portland Made. I'm here with Megan Sinnott of Portland Made, who I'm going to unmute. And yeah, hello. I think you're all hooked up.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. Good to see you again. And
Likewise.
I'm going to talk this time with you. So as Dave said, my name is Megan Sinnott. I am the executive director of Portland Made. And I thought it might be fun if I just did a really quick presentation about what the heck Portland Made is. And then maybe we could chat for a second. How does that sound?
I think that sounds fantastic.
Okay, wonderful. So if I click on this and then I click on this, you're going to see on my dirty desktop. I apologize. All right, here we are. So Portland Made. Portland Made was founded in 2012 by Kelly Roy of ADX fame. And what the heck is Portland Made? Well, it's a collective celebrating local goods and Portland's makers with educational and networking events to help businesses grow. So at the core of it, we're here celebrating local makers and the things that they make, of course, as well as Portland's inherent entrepreneurial spirit that we've seen for so many years burgeoning. How we are here celebrating and fostering it is with so many events. We have hosted over 100 events over the years, and it's pop-ups and marketplaces and now trade shows and monthly workshops, which we lovingly call maker meetups, even when we can't meet up in person. And overall, we've had over 600 local companies engaged in membership. So who is Portland Made? Well, honestly, I feel like I should just take you to our website for an answer to that question. Let's see. So if I were to go to our website, oh, there it is. We're about to have a 6-year-old run through, so be ready for a shriek. Cool. Hi, have fun. We have access to the blog, all of our events, and our brand gallery here. So if you're to click on that, cool. We have a listing of our members, and let's see. Ooh, I'm wearing Betsy and Aya earrings right now. We have a handful of these brands are actually featured in Portland Supply, the trade show right now. Let's see who else. De Las Botanicals, 2 hilarious sisters making booty spray to keep you fresh. Who else? Essence is part of the trade show. Frankie and Coco. I love Maya and all the things that they do. Beautiful bags and accessories. And as you can see, there is a photo, a description, and then an opportunity just to go straight to their website, because Portland Made is not here to skim off the top, take any money from the makers themselves. We want you to go straight to the source and buy from the makers themselves, because honestly, that's one of the greatest things about having such an incredible maker scene in this town. For instance, with Maya's masks, let's see, you can specify the fabric and the fit and fine tune it so that you can make sure that you have the most appropriate mask for your face and needs. All right, so, oh, and actually, let's see. Some people these days are into the video thing, so I'll just show a little video from Angela from House Dog. She is spectacular, and she just opened up a new space, so I'll let her speak for herself a little bit.
Angela Medlin is a dog lover. Seeing that people really love the product just kind of pushed me along, and I just love what I'm doing. Several years ago, she left the corporate world to turn that love into a business. It didn't matter that, I didn't have a mentor that was a person of color already doing pet products that I could, refer to. It didn't matter that, I represent 5% of the Portland population. Madeline started House Dog in 2017. She creates eco-friendly, sustainable dog toys and accessories that have garnered national attention. I think any entrepreneur who's made it, 3 years to 5 years, can look back and see a lot of doubt in their startup process. But she says the creative community in Portland is very supportive. One resource that helped Madeline is Portland Made, a business networking company that hosts educational events to help grow businesses. It's an interesting thing when you're a creative to know that you have this support system that's just as strong as your corporate colleagues.
And there you have it, just as strong as your corporate colleagues. But it's true. We often find with local makers that one of the biggest things that they need is support from each other. And that is certainly something that we provide through networking. So as Angela mentioned, the opportunity to meet other local members, to lean on each other, to learn from each other's mistakes and successes, and but to articulate further. So we're multifaceted. On one hand, we provide educational opportunities, so business development and resource sharing with our monthly maker meetups. But really, I would say that the soul of Portland Made is our members and ability for members to get to know each other. So, be it Zoom or our Google listserv, that has been taking off during COVID. Yesterday, we had a local maker asking about liability insurance. Oh, such a terrible, boring, horrible subject. Nobody really wants to talk about liability insurance, but specifically for makers, it's a particular issue, because it's not just a small business that they're dealing with. They're dealing with a small business with some more complicated risks, bandsaws, etc. And so reaching out to other local makers who found agents who will provide liability insurance versus, this poor gentleman had had 30 phone calls over 2 days with agents around the country, and nobody had anything to provide. And he just put one email out to our listserv and got 6 awesome responses. Today we had local makers say that they are coordinating a small business facet of a Black Lives Matter march. So there's going to be a march on Monday, and they're trying to get drum up excitement from local manufacturers and local makers and local small businesses to show up with their signs and have a safe space for people who might be otherwise hesitant or resistant to dive into a march, especially with things as they are. So just ability to connect with each other. We are here to promote local makers. So be it workshop tours, which I'll talk about in a little bit, what we've been doing with our live tours or behind the scenes views into maker spaces. Member spotlights on our websites. We have brand profiles, which you've seen. We are masters at storytelling. We are featuring makers in our emails. We've got blog posts, social media shout outs. And one of my favorite things is the curation of makers for visiting journalists, for example. If, let's say, Travel Portland were to have a visiting journalist from Sweden who makes a kinfolk-like magazine, and I can kind of put my finger to the pulse of what it is that they might actually feature in their publication, then I'm able to curate a nice list featuring diverse members of the Portland maker community and get them on the glossy pages of the magazines. And then we help with sales. And again, we're not here to sell for makers. We leave that to them. They're the experts. But we do what we can to be a connector and to make sure that makers get set up with as many opportunities as possible, such as Portland Supply, the trade show. This is an example, this is a frightening word cloud of all of the things that our members had said that they were looking for upcoming maker meetups. So these are topics that were really resonating with them, and anything in and around this world, they would be happy to show up to a maker meetup featuring a speaker talking about one of these things. And as you can see, it leans heavily in, you know, the marketing side of things, the advertising, that side, photography and branding and promotion, but also very significantly on opportunities for networking and referrals, and even I would say the retail opportunities. It's really largely leaning on that human connection, ability to connect the dots between, hey, Mantle is looking for a new ceramics artist to feature. You're a ceramicist. Have you talked to her over there? So just chances like that. Speaking of connecting, partnerships are our jam. We love working with strong, awesome local organizations that do what they do well. And that's a really exciting part of Portland Made, is we get to, you know, in addition to the networking side, we have learned to kind of lean on our community partners so that they can do what they do well and we can do what we do well. We are very specific. And sometimes I would say, you know, that there's like an eyebrow raised, like, so Portland Made, you are just focusing on Portland makers? And yeah, we are, because we can.
Own it.
Because Portland is teeming with brilliant, hardworking, talented, interesting makers, and they need support in a very special way. It's different than just your local business association. It's different than the regular Chamber of Commerce. It's very particular. It's makers are hands-on, and not just hands-on in their product, but in the everyday of the running a business. So a maker might, grind away at their workbench all day long, and then they spend late afternoon and evenings figuring out QuickBooks, working on their website, doing all their social media. They're Jacks and Jills of all trades. So we work with community partners to support them in broader ways. So as you can see, here are some of the examples. And okay, so we have the maker meetups, like I said, which are monthly, and usually they have a very educational component to them. We bring in some expert who can speak to something that's incredibly relevant at the time. So the most recent one is we had Natalie Thomas from The Good come and present about user experience. UX is so key to having a successful website. And a lot of makers don't know how to get honest feedback that's actionable without spending a ton of money. So she spilled the beans and shared her top tips and tricks as a UX strategist herself. So those are the maker meetups, but then we also do things like on screen here is a collaboration that we did with Leatherman. It was a panel featuring Dovetail Workwear, not made in Portland, but rad local lady-owned business. Girls Build, and then they flew in Laura Kampf from Germany to talk about being a badass maker. I loved this event at DIY Bar, one of our long-standing members. We hosted a members-only event where members got to bring refuse from their own making process. So we had a letterpress artist bring the offcuts. Cards have to be a certain size, especially those wedding invitations. And she had strips of paper that were totally usable, in fantastic condition, but she just didn't have the storage room, no more use. So she brought reams, so much paper. We had a glass artist who melted down the extra nibs that come from his process. We had somebody bring cashmere scraps, and then makers got to have a competition and make the most interesting items from the other people's trash.
That's so fun.
That was really hilarious. Yeah, that was a good night. We collaborated with Built Oregon for Founders Day, and we brought in founders from the whole state of Oregon for an evening of conversation and revelry. We had a kick-in holiday market. It was the first of such events that I have ever hosted. And I can't remember how many vendors we had in the end, but it was packed. It's kind of like horrific to see these pictures now in light of COVID. Like, oh,
I know, I'm getting so nostalgic.
But it was a ton of fun and it was interactive. We had a card making station, as you can see. There was somebody playing piano. We had mulled hot cider. It was just a really fun experience. And then a smattering of other events. On the right-hand side, for example, is we had collaborated with Northwest Documentary, and they had done a 3-part series specifically designed for storytelling for makers, teaching makers not only how to use the equipment and the software, figuring out how to do all the editing, but really like what is involved in crafting a story, how to do, when to pan into photography or to photos of your product, when to show your face, what, getting the arc of the story, the whole shebang, and with experts in storytelling. And really taking super care to support makers in identifying what they had to share that was special to them and their products. And that was a really powerful experience. Top left was just a happy hour. Do you remember those opportunities?
Vaguely.
Yeah, just like this was first Thursday at pregame, and no big deal, just like a stop on by, eat food from the same table. Ugh, the horror. And bottom left was a bump-in market that we had done at RevNat. They do a street fair every year, and we helped coordinate and curate who was going to be presenting at that market. So what else is it? Who else is it? Well, honestly, the best way to say is to encourage you to join us. And that isn't like, this is not a sales pitch, because I've actually never done a membership drive. Every member of Portland Made is here because they found Portland Made. It was, recommended to them by another local maker, and they're here because it's a new family, it's a new home, it's a new support network, which is especially needed during times of quarantining and isolation. We are stronger together. So you don't have to become a member, but if you do, you get free entry to all of our events. You get, preferred status should we be pushing people towards a journalist who's visiting, etc. So you could join as a non-member to events. If you can't afford the $15, which our events normally are, for an hour plus experience with a local expert in a relevant field, reach out, let me know. I am here. My email is Megan, MEGHAN, @portlandmade.com. I'll shoot you a code so you can get into an event for free. Or join us passively as a voyeur. You can come and watch behind the scenes tours for local maker workshops. And we have a whole slew of those coming up in collaboration with Portland Supply. We are doing so many tours tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Back. We kick off with Ishka from, and that's Urdu for love. And she makes the most spectacular skincare products. And you don't have to believe me, just listen to her tomorrow, because she'll sell you in the first 30 seconds. She's really good. Like Woe Handmade Egg Press, who some of you might have seen today in the live presentations right here on Facebook and Zoom. Hugh, and let's see, what's a good example? So Assance is a Portland Made member. And, oh, just kidding, you can't see that. My link is a failure. See what happens when you're doing all at the same time?
I wouldn't know what you're talking about, Megan.
Oh, yeah.
I only have one job here.
Literally all the hats. I see you with your head. So we'll get to tour with Rodi tomorrow, Rose Alchemista, and she's going to talk about her process and why her products are so delicious smelling and great feeling. So that is, again, back-to-back live Instagram tours. In the past, we had done in-person tours, but no longer. We're going to digital, which has actually been really fantastic with regards to, you know, a lens towards equity. A lot of makers weren't able to afford the time, or they just literally didn't have the space to welcome people into their workshops. And now we can do virtual shop tours at the drop of the hat, a time that makes sense for them. And where you could have 100 people welcome into their workshop at once, even if it's only a 400 square foot space, thanks to the wild world of Instagram Live. Whew. So that's my story.
Amazing. No, that's so great. It's so fun. I mean, hearing you talk about Portland Made, it's when I think of everything good that has happened for me personally and for my company, Candid, I feel like literally every step forward that we've taken as a business has started with the words, "Oh, you should talk to," and
Yeah.
that's it. Like that's the whole thing. What, you know, the events are great, the perks are great, but at the end of the day, you need to sort of, you don't need to, but you would be remiss if you weren't steeping yourself in a culture of like-minded people, because we are,
Yes.
as entrepreneurs, as makers, we're all, you know, lone wolves in need of community to some extent. I think you can only have so much community when you're staying up until 2 a.m. every day getting your baby off the ground. And
Yes.
it's so refreshing to find a group of people, whether you have anything in common in terms of the output. There's a vibe in these business communities, and I think Portland is really special in that it's a big enough city that it's real, but it's a small enough city that you kind of, if you get out there, you're going to meet everybody.
Yep.
And you're going to be, you know, don't burn any bridges. It's the city of bridges. We only have 7, so don't burn any. But yeah, no, but it's true, and it's really wonderful. And it took me so long to figure that one out, and once we did, everything just kept breaking our way.
Yeah. Well, and I think the last 3 months have taught us many things, but one of which is to not take for granted the resources that we do have, and the people around us, even if we can't be right next to them physically. And yeah, there's no competition in Portland Made, because, you know, sure, there's a handful of skincare products and jewelry makers and you know, glass blowers, but this glass blower shares a space with 2 other glass blowers, and they are each other's biggest fans and biggest support networks. And
Yep.
so, but beyond that, you know, we have an eyeglass making company who can just as readily recommend a web developer to a glass blower as another glass blower. It's
Yep.
in the end, we are all overcoming very freakishly similar hurdles, and there is no need to reinvent the wheel or to be so proud that we just hide away Googling answers, because somebody has likely addressed the issue already and likely come up with a pretty healthy solution. And you can save that time and go back to making.
Absolutely. That was great. No, that's really, you've got me pumped for the communities that I'm a part of, and just sad all over again. But
Oh no,
those
don't
pictures,
be sad.
no, those pictures were just heartbreaking.
Oh gosh, I should update my presentation.
I can't believe how
So
far. No, but it's good. It's good. We need to
I
be
have
reminded
so
that
many
there's
screenshots of Zoom events. I can just
just
replace.
somebody with headphones at a desk. That's all I can see anymore. No, that is really fantastic. Yeah, should we move into sort of closing wrap up about I got some stats to share and a couple
Oh,
questions
good.
for you.
I like that. You're like, hold on, this is your presentation. I'm like, would you mind sharing some statistics?
No, happily.
Let's
It's important. I mean, this is happening in a vacuum, and it's all happening so fast. And it's funny, right before this meeting, I was looking through my email. I think you and I met on July 14th. just to give a sense of scale for how quickly we were able to get this thing up and running,
Oh,
which blows my mind, because it feels like we've known each other for a very long time at this point in the process.
okay. Yeah, right. Sorry. You've met the kids. You've seen everything
Yep,
in the
we've
house. Yeah.
we've done it all. I love
Oh
what you've done
my
with your kitchen.
God.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as the event, where this is whatever this is, I think we're rounding up the end of the third day of the 4 days of the live event. Um, you know,
Yeah.
it's very hard to get a sense of it in the way that you can with a giant trade show. Um, so just a couple of quick, we're still figuring out all the numbers, but just so people know kind of the health check on things, the website went live at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, and our first order came through at 9:15, which I almost wish it hadn't, because that number just seems too round to be real. It seems so fake, but it is actually. I double checked the timestamp. It was 9:15 and 34 seconds. We had over 600 buyers pre-registered from all of our brands. Again, talking about the network effect, everybody sort of brought their crews together, and it looks like we're on track for a total of over 3,000 new and unique buyers by the time things wrap up tomorrow. And yeah, you're the last person I need to tell this, but between you and me, we have managed to do interviews and in-studio demos with over half of the 100 brands showing at the show. And I think I've been having such an amazingly fun time. It's been really invigorating, and I'm so glad that this video portion came together, because I think we are at the point in the pandemic where everybody kind of knows their way around a webcam, and
Yeah,
I've just
well,
felt much less alone because of it.
yes. Well, and you kind of downplayed. You're like, yeah, I guess I could help out with this online thing. And at one point today, you called it a show. No,
Uh-huh.
oh, Dave, you're like totally a talk show host. Look at you
Mm-hmm.
here.
I mean, it's I mean, just talking about networking. I bought this green screen that you specifically can't see behind me. 10 years ago when I was shooting infomercials for Journey Gym, and then the founder of Journey Gym, John Freese, a local Portland entrepreneur, started the Starbucks program, which was my business community that I finally wised up and was like, oh, I don't have to go this alone. And that's where we met Handful, Sensi Graves, the Loopworks crew, like so many of the brands that are in the show I already knew. And it's just, it's the Portland community. It's so awesome to be a part of it.
I have so many more questions. I won't air names out, but I feel like we probably know of.
It's Portland. I mean, we know. I'm sure we know everybody the same. To wrap up, can I ask you just a couple of closing questions that I have about Portland Made? So like this, I'm always fascinated with like next steps and where people get started, and I'm curious, like you've seen so many businesses at so many points in their life cycle. What would you say is the biggest mistake that you see small to medium-sized businesses making in terms of like resources or opportunities that they're passing up because they don't think they need it? Like what is the thing that makes you think, oh, honey, you should come in from the cold, that you just see over and over again?
Well, I felt like it was relevant in conversations with this trade show is, and I'm going to use the word investing, but investing can mean so many things. It doesn't have to mean money. It can mean time. It can mean sharing of resources. It can mean like leaning on a friend when necessary, but really investing in good quality photos.
Yep.
Photography is huge, and picture speaks 1,000 words. If you don't have a good picture of your product or something to represent your brand or who you are, or you are making it incredibly difficult for proponents, fans, supporters, potential clients to support you. And it doesn't have to be much. You can float on 2 photo shoots a year, and you can find reasonable, high quality photographers in town who can do a 2-hour shoot for a reasonable amount of money. Or you can find, I hate saying this day and age when it's all about, supporting people for what they're worth, but you can work out a trade. I'm just going to say that right now. And do it. And that has been actually some of the best partnerships I've ever developed as a former brand manager and marketing director for a local company that went global. We we would collaborate on photo shoots. So if somebody had some decent looking friends, somebody else was really good at location scouting, bonus. Somebody else could, a brand could provide the clothing. Another brand could provide the bicycle. Another brand could bring in the photographer, maybe even pay for them, hopefully, right? Support your local artists. And then do a giveaway of the products featured in that photo shoot. And then it's a win-win-win-win across the board. Everybody is leaving happy, connected, with more resources, with more followers, with more leads, more buys. But don't skimp on the photography. And if you think you're a good photographer, reach out to your friends and do that kind of UX. Like, is it clear what this is? Do you understand? Can you read the label in this photo? Does this picture make you want to use this face cream, or does it scare you? You know, whatever the case may be. So photography, I would say, is it seems so surface, but it's your opportunity to communicate with people aside from
Absolutely.
so.
No, and it's tricky too, because it's photography and writing are the two things that it can take a minute to get ready to pay someone else to do it, because you're like, I have a phone and I can write English. Why would I? Those are the things I can like do good enough by myself. But really, if you have that done professionally at a professional level, that's your first impression. That's the thing that gets people in the door. And then, you really don't want to skimp on that. I completely agree. I would not. I wasn't expecting that to be your answer, but hearing it, that's absolutely right.
Yeah, a good photo can sell anything.
Yep. Okay, my second question: at what stage should a business seek out membership in Portland Made? I know that you work with people who can't afford the $15 per event, but when is there too soon? Is there too late? When do you like to catch people?
We have I would say even non-brands who are members, people who have a kind of zygote of idea, this beginning inkling, and maybe they tried something in the past, but they're ready to kick off, and they just want to get in and around the chatter, hear the words again, see the faces, kind of put their own finger to the pulse about what the maker scene is looking like right now, and just kind of get that foundation for support. And then, oh goodness, we've got members who have been doing what they do for over 20 years, but those members are still very, very, very much hands-on, and they are purposefully not scaling, not seeking, VCs to skyrocket. They're doing what they're doing because they love being where they're at, and they like being reinvigorated with the spirit of local makers. So I'll say Elizabeth Roloff is a great example. She is a local seamstress, and really wonderful at pivoting right now. She's doing masks, beautiful masks. She's been making gorgeous, sustainable fashion in Southeast Portland in her great craftsman home for 20 years. And she's a Portland Made member because she likes hearing what other Portland Made members have to say. And to be honest, technology and resources are always churning. So you think you understand advertising on Instagram, and then they up and change things on you the very next day. So it's great to have other people in and around you who believe in your work, who can be proponents, and who can also answer a quick question in a way that Mr. Google can't. So, yeah.
Yep.
But so I would say we've got from beginning stages through many years, but it's, we do have some of the bigger companies on board as members, but largely the person who's getting membership emails is the founder of the company, and they are still living and breathing the day-to-day for their company. So they may not be on the line, hand sewing, but every single decision of the company represents their character and them as a maker.
Awesome. No, that is, again, a wonderful and complete answer. Awesome. Well, my final question before I let you go, when are we doing this again?
Oh,
I feel like this was really fun. I know that got to keep it going. I know that the traditional trade show cycle, we're basing everything on the big guys, the ones who rent out the Javits Center, and they tend to do them twice annually. But in all seriousness, what are your plans for events like this? I think moving forward, it's the future remains unclear. But as I was saying earlier in one of our earlier talks, like Candid had been moving in this direction kind of since before everybody had a preference of face mask style, because trade shows are just kind of, they're not archaic, but they're, I think now that it's like working from, well, it's like working from home. It's like now that the world is proving that you can do it without the whole big rigmarole, I think it's going to be harder to get people who are on the fence before to motivate towards it. And I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, because I had come from, you might have guessed it, the bike industry, outdoor industry. And yeah, our trade shows were drying up, and our opportunities were kind of fizzling. And so already people were having to get creative, but it was a kind of dragging the feet, hoping something else would come, not really believing it, knowing it's the last trade show, but still going and trying to make it work. And it was a great stress on the company. I mean, deadlines are lovely, but financially, it was a very difficult, significant portion of my brand's budget went, I would say the majority of our marketing budget went to making trade shows happen. And that was a luxury. And we were very blessed to be fortunate enough to have the coffers to cough up for that experience. But I loved hearing from Stephen from Iltopia today, talking about one, the fact that he isn't going to trade shows means that he has the opportunity now to innovate, get creative, be more hands-on, push forward at his own desk in his own workshop now, opposed to having his resources be spread out over trade shows and time zones, etc. But also just the financial barrier there. So I think Tori Campbell also spoke to that a little bit from Prosper Portland yesterday, about how, this is such a more friendly, open experience for local makers. So what's next, man? Always, always, always reinventing. It's maybe to a fault. I think maybe that's why I identify so much with the makers, is like, I'm finding solutions for problems that might not even be there, but you just never know. Like, you can't just rest on one solution. Like, there must be something better. So next up, I'm working with a local agency to create an unboxing experience. So having Portland come into your home and being able to share the experience of unboxing with others, be they your neighbor, literally a home away, or somebody on the East Coast who would like to experience the quality and level of sustainability that Portland products often showcase. So that's gonna be the very next. And then, man, I don't know. Let's talk.
Let's talk. Yeah, we don't have to have this conversation on the air.
But yeah, so good question though, because there is always a something new, a something brilliant kind of on the horizon. So I'm excited. Man, there's kind of two sides of all worlds right now, and specifically in the small business and maker side of things. And we have the end is near, side in the community. And I would say largely Portland Made is a really hopeful, lovely, positive, silver lining, like light at the end of the tunnel, opportunity seeking and appreciating a group of people. Like, when faced with a challenge, man, that just gets us going. And so it has been really hard, and a lot of Portland Made members have had to take on a quote unquote 9-to-5 to fuel their passion. But they are making ends meet. And although it's a struggle, it's also been a really great kind of turning our world upside down on the head and reinventing what it means to be a maker in Portland. So,
Yeah.
so thanks for providing opportunities for people.
Absolutely. No, thank you again so much. I know the event isn't over, but I'm this has been a long couple of days, and I'm excited to put my feet up tomorrow
Yes.
and watch you wrap it up with some studio tours.
All right. Yeah.
Looks like
See
you
you
had a
at
great
9
roster.
a.m. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks. You too, Megan. That Megan Sinnott from Portland Made, co-sponsor of the Portland Supply event. Thank you so much. This has been a delight, and I'll see you tomorrow.